Hi there, I'm Scott D. Forsyth, professional voice actor and pop culture enthusiast. Today, we're talking about Rian Johnson, my favorite director, whose work you'll most certainly recognize. From his hit sci-fi movie Looper to his other hit and divisive, and in my opinion, impressive, sci-fi movie, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. However, I'm not talking about his sci-fi stuff. I'm focusing on a different, more well-known version of Rian Johnson. The Rian Johnson mysteries. You know, Glass Onion, Knives Out, Poker Face, just to name a few. I'll be going over the who's, how's, what's, and why I recommend this to a general audience. Recommend a multitude of different things to a general audience, thus claiming it best of all. But first, let's take a quick break, take a quick breather, and then get right back to the show. So, who is Rian Johnson? Well, Rian Johnson is an American filmmaker whose love of movies influenced his drive to be a filmmaker. He became a well-accomplished director in both film and TV. He did a lot of work for Breaking Bad. A lot of the highlight episodes, like The Fly and Ozymandias, are two of the standout episodes of Breaking Bad. Those are directed by Rian Johnson. And then he's frequently collaborated with a team of people that is made up of his family and friends. He's had this team since the beginning, since his work on Brick, and then after that with the Brothers Bloom, which that kind of leads into my next little question. When did Rian Johnson hit his stride? I talked about it before. He has directed many hit movies. So he went to school. He went to the USC School of Cinematic Arts. And then that's where he, started with his first film, Brick, which is like this neo-noir detective movie, very inspired by the classic, like Humphrey Bogart, noir detectives, just set in high school. And it's actually set in the high school that he grew up in. And that film stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who is in every single one of Rian Johnson's projects, which was a good indie hit. A lot of people like that movie. But for me, it's his sophomore film, The Brothers Bloom. That's when he hit his stride. That movie has everything Rian Johnson is known for. His understanding for storytelling, the way to use camera, his excellent pacing. I love The Brothers Bloom. And he loved it too. Everybody who was in it said it was wonderful and a great, experience. But it completely flopped and nobody saw it. But it is currently on HBO Max and you should go see it. That's like a mini best of all. Because Brothers Bloom is kind of like a pulpy treasure hunt movie mixed with a lighthearted like Coen Brothers movie. So kind of high stakes, people with a lot to lose about con men, but it is a sweet romantic film as well. But that's where it hit his stride for me. Others would disagree. He got put on the map by Looper. That movie was a huge hit, rightfully so. It's great. But then, after The Last Jedi, and it had the mixed reception, he just went in and made something that he truly loved, which was Knives Out, the first of his, what I'm calling the Rian Johnson mysteries. But what makes a Rian Johnson mystery? I alluded to it earlier, but I kind of went on a rabbit trail. No surprise on Best of All. But he has an eye and understanding for storytelling like no other. Rian Johnson understands what makes a good story and how to convey that story to the audience. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier with The Brothers Bloom. With camera techniques, clever script writing, he knows what an audience wants to see. Typically, Last Jedi is probably the only movie that breaks that a little bit. Maybe Glass Onion, but we'll get to that. Nevertheless, everything that you see on screen that he's showing to you is important and typically has a purpose. And I said that he had a love for filmmaking and classic films, but there's no one on earth then Rian Johnson loves more than Agatha Christie. He absolutely loves the Hercule Poirot series of books and then became movies. So Murder on the Orient Express, Death of the Nile, those are the two most recent remakes of those mysteries. But he just loved it and said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do what Agatha Christie did, that he made Knives Out, a movie that completely flips the script on a whodunit. I'm going to go over the three, what I call Rian Johnson mysteries: Poker Face, Knives Out, and Glass Onion. Explain what they are and why they work and why I like them so much and why I recommend them to you. So Poker Face is a murder of the week show where a down-on-her-luck vagabond named Charlie Cale, played by Natasha Lyonne, solves a murder or mystery that involves a new cast every episode. And then during the course of Poker Face, there's this overarching narrative that started in the first case, and that is all throughout season 1 of Poker Face. In short, the show kicks ass. It's so good. And part of the reason that it's so good is Natasha Lyonne. She plays this really average, regular person who is not a detective, not in law enforcement at all, but has this knack for knowing when people are lying. And because of that, and because that she's just a magnet for bad luck, she ends up seeing a lot of people who finds herself in the midst of people who have been murdered, and she knows who it is or at least she thinks she does, and she has to prove it, because she has a knack for telling when people are lying. This is a wonderful, modern version of Columbo, a series that I absolutely love, that ran for a very long time, has multiple different movies and TV shows, that all starred Peter Falk. Not all, and there's typically it's Peter Falk as Detective Columbo, who is this really wacky, bumbling fool of a man that is a successful detective in California. It's fun to watch the show because typically it's hard to tell whether or not his madness is on purpose or not, but he is good at solving crimes. It's like, if you know Columbo, you're like, all right, I know this. If you don't, it's important to know, because that's where Poker Face comes from, even from the title screens, the opening of the show. Typically the first 20 minutes of Poker Face, we don't see Charlie at all. We see whoever the guest star of that episode is, and they're typically the murderer. And that's how Columbo was. Columbo is very famous for these hour-long, maybe 90-minute episodes that, in the beginning, you're just watching the murder unfold, so you know everything that's in front of you, because typically a detective like Columbo or Charlie, since they know everything when they walk into the room, they can figure things out pretty quickly. So the interest in shows and the bumbling detective stories like that are, you're not just watching, oh, how did this murder happen? You're watching, how is our down on our luck average person going to beat this person who seems unbeatable? Columbo had a very big knack for going after typically upper class, white collar crooks who would do something horrible and think that they can get away with it because, that's just how society is set up. And that's how Poker Face is too. Sorry, I kind of gave a history of Columbo, but it's important to understand, because I know there's a lot of young people who have not watched Columbo and would watch Poker Face and enjoy it, but not understand there's a reason why this is kind of shot and emulated like a 70s TV show. It even for me, the first episode, you see basically the entirety of the murder, and then you see how Charlie's involved. They have to go back in time a little bit to show this is how Charlie's involved. This is the way that makes the most sense. And once you get used to that and you get acclimated to that, then the show is not hard to follow at all because you expect it every week that's going to happen. And Natasha Lyonne rocks. She is such a phenomenal actress. She's so cool. And she absolutely embodies like the perfectness of being a bumbling detective. She's so wonderful. And a lot of episodes, she definitely shines of just being a third party in this mystery. But then there's some where they kind of involve a little bit of her backstory. I grew up on detective shows like Monk, which was heavily inspired by Columbo. And so I like seeing a murder of the week, but like style show, but where the detective, we get a little bit more we get to understand them as a character as well. And so, Poker Face definitely blends the lines between the two. Because in Columbo, you don't. You basically never learn anything about Columbo, but that's the point. With Poker Face, there's a little bit of some extra stuff going on, and it's really cool. All the other guest stars in Poker Face are phenomenal. We have like Adrian Brody. We have people you would expect to see from a Rian Johnson thing, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Adrian Brody. But then you have like Luis Guzman. I'm just going off the top of my head. A few of the others. Stephanie Hsu from Everything Everywhere All at Once. She's in it, and she rocks. Oh my God, she's so good. I love that episode. And some of the episodes are kind of standalone. Some of them are kind of knit better into the overarching story. It's great. And it is on track for a season 2. It is so phenomenal. It's one of my new favorite shows because it's hitting all of the notes of bumbling detective mysteries, classic 70s like TV and film, but with a modern twist and lens to make it watchable, because some stuff back in the 70s is not watchable anymore. So it's exceptional. It's great. So then let's go into the other Rian Johnson mystery. We'll go into the true whodunit. For those of you who don't know, whodunit is typically an ensemble cast show, production, book, movie, play, where you have a bunch of interesting characters that are all connected in some way to a murder, with the one person who is not connected being the detective, trying to solve, the murder mystery. So the audience is kind of on the side of the detective. We're very much outside of the story. We learn things as the detective goes. And over time, when the murderer is revealed, then you can look back on the story and go, oh, that's how that piece fits to there and that one fits to there, making them very rewatchable. Whodunits are spectacular. The best version of that in modern day is Knives Out. My favorite movie of 2019, my best of the year 2019, this is what I picked. The plot of Knives Out is you have this family that are all suspects in the murder of a wealthy novelist. And then, kind of like I was explaining before, this gentleman detective named Benoit Blanc, played by Daniel Craig, who absolutely rules as this character, fresh off of James Bond, distinguished and handsome and rugged, and then goes into this foghorn leghorn detective who I'm like, yeah, I want him to play Benoit Blanc for the rest of his life. He's anonymously hired to solve the case, so that's how he gets involved. And then you watch the movie unfold from there. So in my best of 2019 movies, I said that this was my favorite movie. I'm going to paraphrase, but this is what I said about Knives Out. So Knives Out is a good twist on a whodunit formula and creates an engaging and interesting story. If you want to hear more of my initial thoughts right after I saw the movie, especially within that year, you can go check out the video I mentioned before at youtube.com/ScottyMeLad, best of the year, best of 2019 movies, and find my little section of that. But I want to update a few of my thoughts since it's been 3 years? I can't do math. 1, 2, 3. It's been 4 years. So I wanted to take the time to talk about a little bit of my updated thoughts on this. Yeah, it's my favorite movie of all time. Knives Out is incredible. It has a uniqueness unlike anything else. And it twists a beloved and well-established formula that I love and does it in a way that completely reinvigorated like whodunits and mysteries as a whole. The film is able to surpass being a simple mystery and fleshes it out into this very broader movie with broader themes, showing family dramas and making a political statement about immigrants and nepotism and privilege. Rian Johnson talked about that Agatha Christie's stories were written at the time that like they were. We kind of see them as period pieces now, but at the time they were very current. So he's done that with Knives Out, and he's done that with another project we'll see later on, where it's like this is very much at the center of like modern day U.S. American politics. I'm sure there's some people who go like, oh, I don't want politics in my movie. And I'm going, okay, I do. I love that. But the movie also does a great job of having like really endearing characters, really memorable characters, and being a great comedy in its own right. Rian Johnson is hysterical. He is a very, very funny writer, and knows how to make a ensemble cast shine and not have anybody like eclipse the cast. It's not like, oh man, that movie was good, but like only Daniel Craig was the good one out of that. No. Knives Out, every single actor puts their heart and soul into that performance. And yeah, clearly we get to see a lot more of Daniel Craig and Ana de Armas, because she's the essentially focal point, main character, or she's at the core of this mystery, and they are such good characters and actors. I'm very impressed with their work. And one thing I love about Knives Out is typically, whodunit, the murder, motive, reason, and I guess that's it, and how it happened are all pretty answered at the end, and typically a big fancy parlor scene where it's like, okay, here's what happened. Da 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 da. Within like the first 20 minutes, we find out pretty much everything about the murder, and it completely flips of the movie is not a. Some people have described this movie as not a whodunit, but a like why done it or a how done it. It's like we want to know why did this happen, and then essentially how they're gonna get out of it. And it's so clever, and that makes the movie much more enjoyable. I've watched this movie a handful of times, and every single time, even though after my first viewing, I knew the mystery, I knew like all the pieces of the puzzle, I still get engaged every single time I'm watching it. I'm like, no, I want to see more. I want to know what happens. Something shocking, and I'm like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And I'm like, oh, this is like the third or fourth time I've watched this movie, and I didn't see it coming. Like, it's just a very, very special movie to me. And like I said before, reinvigorated this genre that I don't think was very mainstream, which I know is a silly statement because like Agatha Christie is huge, but no, I don't think it's to this level, because when Glass Onion came out last year, a few of my friends went to go see it, and we kind of made it like an appointment viewing, and we went to the theater, and it was packed, like filled to the brim, and it wasn't even like a late showing. It was like a normal, like 7:00 movie, and everyone was there. Everyone's like, we gotta see another Knives Out mystery. So let's talk about Glass Onion. It is my best of 2022 movie pick. And not just because I'm a simp for Rian Johnson. I legitimately think it was so exponentially good and clever and exactly what I wanted out of a movie. Glass Onion is about these very eccentric, different influential media people, to put it like simply, who are all friends, and they get together on this island with this very tech billionaire who has invited them all there because he is going to be murdered. And that incorporates Benoit Blanc. He is invited anonymously, like in Knives Out as well. That nobody knows who invited him, but we just know that he's also there as well. So again, kind of a fish out of water situation. He's a very good surrogate for the audience, because the audience doesn't know these characters, but all these characters have known each other for a really long time. So we're getting different points of view from everything. Let me give a brief summary, not a brief summary, just a snippet of my thoughts on Glass Onion. That was from the Best of the Year video, and then I'll go into it a little bit more. Glass Onion works well as a follow-up to Knives Out because it puts the whodunit mystery on the back burner and highlights interesting players in the mystery rather than the murder itself. Yeah, so exactly that. So you have all of these rich hoity-toity people on this island by this very rich tech billionaire that is very similar to another tech billionaire who bought a bird app. I wonder who I'm talking about. And yeah, like, I really, really liked Glass Onion. Some people were like, oh, it's not as good as Knives Out. I like them both for very different reasons. But I really, really liked Glass Onion because, again, much like how Agatha Christie's movies are period pieces now, but not when they were written, that's how these Knives Out mysteries are too, or the Benoit Blanc mysteries. This one takes place immediately during COVID. Like, that's like the opening shot of the movie is one of the characters answering and picking up a package, and she's like, oh, I gotta put on my mask, and it says like May 2020. It is at the absolute peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think that was such a great way to set the characters, find out where they've been at. I say characters, I'm mostly just talking about Benoit Blanc, because he hasn't had a mystery since Knives Out, reportedly. Because you don't have to watch either one of the movies. They're just, it's just the same character. It's just another mystery for Benoit Blanc. You have all of these very rich, upper-class people. One's a scientist, one's a politician. I already mentioned the Elon Musk type tech billionaire guy. You have Dave Bautista playing like this sort of YouTuber, kind of a mix of a Logan Paul and Joe Rogan type, like, menaced. So like he's a feminist, but for men. It's wild. And you have all of these characters who are absolute buffoons, and just like, the movie is about, hey, maybe these people that we give a lot of spotlight to, maybe we shouldn't, because everything's a glass onion, seemingly pretty and complex, but you can see right through it. So the actual murder mystery doesn't happen until about halfway through the movie. And then the movie kind of changes, and we get to see the same story from a different perspective. And it's so brilliant. I did not expect that that's what we were going to do. I really just thought we were just going to do a and then there were none style mystery. Because I'm thinking of like, oh, this is a whodunit. So that's what we're going to do. You know, Rian Johnson can only reinvent this formula once, right? And it's like, nope, he did it again. And so it's like, and he's saying that he's done this unintentionally because apparently Agatha Christie would do that too. She would really change up her stories and really changed what you would expect out of a whodunit murder mystery. So the mystery itself in Glass Onion is very satisfying, and it makes a lot of sense. And by the end, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. But that's like not the focal point of the movie. The focal point of the movie is to really look at, in current American U.S. politics, it's like, who are the people we're listening to, and who are the people we should be listening to? And then, other voices are being silenced. And I really can't say too much because I don't want to give it away. But it's very clever, and it works so well for me. And for me, it hit right at the right moment. I was dealing with some people who were kind of like what do they call themselves in Glass Onion? The disruptors. That's the name of the little group, because they go against the grain. They disrupt things, and oh shit. Taking my personal bias and feelings aside, no, it does a really good job. And I think it's very evident for the people who are like, I didn't like this movie. This story didn't make any sense. And I'm like, yeah, you just didn't get it. It's very easy. And it did extremely well. And we know that there's going to be another Benoit Blanc mystery after that. So a little bit of a longer episode, but I wanted to highlight my absolute favorite writer and director. And I wanted to highlight these projects that obviously are getting a lot of recognition and notoriety. I'm beating a dead horse when I'm saying that, hey, Knives Out and Glass Onion, hey, they're good movies. Like, yeah, no, duh. But maybe it's a reminder of, like, this is a very unique and interesting formula and stories that you can do a lot with. In a similar way, and people may disagree, of what Marvel did with superhero stories. There's a lot of the Marvel movies that kind of break the mold of a superhero story, break the mold of what we know. That's what Rian Johnson has been doing with his mystery movies. If you want something kind of fresh and exciting and new, check out Glass Onion and Knives Out. If you want something a little bit more classic, but really, really worthwhile to, like, a classic that is near perfection, check out Poker Face. And then if you are hooked like me and you want to check out his other stuff, go check out everything else Johnson did, especially The Brothers Bloom. Which is so, I refrain from talking about that movie because I'm like, oh, it's kind of a mystery movie. It's not. It's a con movie, but whoo, it's good. You're like, all right, I've listened to you talk for about 30 minutes, Scott. How can I watch these movies? So you can watch all the movies I've mentioned on digital or DVD. On everything, it will. If you want to watch a Rian Johnson thing, you can find it. You can rent it in some way. Knives Out is available on Hulu, and apparently some other services, but Hulu I know for sure. Glass Onion is only available on Netflix. Netflix helped produce the movie, and they will produce the next Benoit Blanc mystery movie that we don't know anything about. We just know that it is going to be made. And then Poker Face is only available on NBC's Peacock, which is a new streaming service that I actually subscribe to literally just so I can watch Poker Face. And it was totally worthwhile because Columbo and Monk and other mystery stuff that I've talked about is also on there. So it's a great, and a lot of Agatha Christie stuff. Like is Murder, She Wrote Agatha Christie? It might not be, but it's in that same vein. And some of the episodes of Poker Face are available on Peacock's free options, but you typically will have to subscribe to watch the entirety of the show. So that's where you can watch all of that stuff. So there's the what's what on the Rian Johnson mysteries and why I love them so much. If you have any other thoughts on Rian Johnson or any of his other work or anything that I mentioned before, you can feel free to email us at mail@ScottyMeLad.com. Your letter might even be read on the show. So hopefully you've taken something out of this episode, and we'll give all the Rian Johnson stuff and maybe some of my stuff too a shot. But best of all, you were a listener, and we at ScottyMeLad thank you. And that's my closer. Best of All was hosted and produced by Scott D. Forsythe, using the song Mia by Rolando Puchades from the album Canta as our intro and outro theme.